Have you ever looked into a stranger's face and felt like you were staring at your own past? Ethan Harrison never expected a simple Saturday afternoon to change everything. The billionaire CEO had spent the last 5 years building one of the fastest-growing companies in America. His name appeared in business magazines. His schedule was packed months in advance. Success followed him everywhere. Yet none of it filled the quiet space that still belonged to one woman. Emily Carter. 5 years ago, she disappeared without a goodbye. No explanation. No forwarding address. Nothing. At first, Ethan searched for her. Then he searched harder. Eventually, the trail went cold. Life moved forward, at least on the surface. Deep down, something remained unfinished. That afternoon, Ethan arrived at a small county fair nearly 200 miles from New York City. The event was meant to be a brief appearance for a local charity fundraiser. Cameras flashed. Organizers greeted him with excited smiles. Children ran between colorful booths while music drifted through the warm summer air. Everything felt ordinary until a small hand tugged at his sleeve. Ethan turned around. Standing beside him was a little girl with golden blonde hair and bright blue eyes. She looked about 5 years old. Her expression was fearless, curious, almost familiar. She studied him for several seconds before speaking. "Mister, why do you look exactly like my brothers?" Ethan blinked. The question caught him completely off guard. A laugh almost escaped his lips, but something about the girl's face stopped him. Her eyes held his attention. There was something strangely recognizable in them. Before he could answer, the girl tilted her head. "You even have the same smile." Ethan felt a chill despite the warm weather. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Lily." She smiled. "Lily Carter." The name hit him like an unexpected memory. Carter. His heartbeat quickened. Coincidence, he told himself. Just a coincidence. Then 2 boys came running across the grass. "Lily," one shouted. "Mom said not to wander off." Ethan looked up. The boys stopped a few feet away. For a moment, nobody moved. The world seemed to narrow into silence. Both boys had the same blonde hair, the same blue eyes, the same familiar features. Ethan stared. One boy folded his arms. The other offered a shy smile. They looked so much alike they had to be twins. No, not twins. Triplets. Lily stepped beside them. 3 children. 3 faces. 3 impossible reflections. Ethan's chest tightened. His mind raced for an explanation that refused to come. Then he saw someone standing near a lemonade stand about 30 yards away. A woman. She turned toward the children. Time stopped. Emily Carter froze the instant her eyes met his. The smile vanished from her face. Shock flashed across her expression. Ethan forgot the noise of the fair. He forgot the crowd. He forgot every meeting waiting on his calendar. There was only Emily. After 5 years, she was standing right in front of him. Then she looked at the children. Panic crossed her face. She hurried toward them. Ethan knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was no coincidence. The answers he had searched for over 5 long years were finally standing only a few steps away. Emily reached the children within seconds. Her breathing was uneven. Her eyes locked on Ethan as if she had seen a ghost. Lily immediately grabbed her mother's hand. Noah and Mason stepped closer to her side. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The noise of the fair faded into the background. Ethan could only stare. 5 years. 5 years of unanswered questions suddenly stood right in front of him. Emily swallowed hard. "Kids, we are leaving." Her voice sounded calm, but he heard the tension underneath. Lily looked confused. "Mom, this is the man I told you about." Emily forced a small smile. "I know, sweetheart." Then she guided the children away. Ethan's instincts took over. "Emily." She stopped. Hearing her name from his voice seemed to shake her more than she expected. Slowly, she turned around. The distance between them felt enormous despite being only a few yards apart. Ethan searched her face. She looked different now. Stronger. Wiser. Yet the same sadness he remembered still lingered behind her eyes. "You disappeared," he said quietly. Emily looked away. "This is not the place." "Then tell me where." She hesitated. Noah tugged on her sleeve. "Mom." Emily took a breath before kneeling beside the children. "Give me 1 minute, okay?" The 3 nodded. Ethan watched them carefully. Every movement drew his attention. The boys shared his posture. Lily had his smile. The similarities were impossible to ignore. Emily stepped closer. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "A charity event." His voice softened. "I could ask you the same thing." A faint smile crossed her lips. We live here. Ethan glanced toward the children again. We? Emily immediately understood what he was asking. The color drained slightly from her face. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. Questions crowded his mind. Why had she left? Why had she never contacted him? Why did those children look so familiar? Most importantly, why did his heart already know something his mind could not yet prove? Emily folded her arms. You should go back to your event. Ethan almost laughed at the absurdity of the situation. After 5 years? She looked exhausted. Some things are better left alone. Not this. His answer came instantly. Emily lowered her gaze. For the first time, he noticed how tired she seemed. Not physically, emotionally, like someone who had carried a heavy burden for a very long time. Lily suddenly called from behind them. Mom, can we get ice cream before we go? The little girl's cheerful voice broke the tension. Emily smiled warmly at her daughter. Ethan noticed the difference immediately. That smile was genuine. It came naturally. It was the smile of a mother who loved deeply. As Emily walked back toward the children, Ethan stood frozen. Then Mason looked over his shoulder. The boy's blue eyes met his. For a brief second, Ethan felt something impossible to explain. Recognition. Connection. A feeling that reached somewhere deep inside him. The boy offered a polite wave before turning away. Ethan slowly raised his hand in return. Moments later, Emily and the children disappeared into the crowd. Yet Ethan remained standing exactly where he was. His scheduled appearance started 15 minutes later. He never noticed. One thought echoed through his mind again and again. Emily Carter had built a life only 200 miles away. 3 children called her mom. Somehow, every answer he had spent years searching for was hidden inside that small family. This time, he was not going to walk away. The next morning, Ethan canceled 2 meetings, ignored a stack of contracts waiting on his desk, then drove back to the small town before sunrise. He told himself he needed answers. The truth was simpler. He could not stop thinking about those children. The image of Lily's smile followed him through the night. Noah's serious expression stayed in his mind. Mason's polite wave replayed again and again. By 8 o'clock, he sat inside a small coffee shop across from the town square. Through the front window, he watched local families begin their day. This place felt different from New York. Nobody seemed rushed. People greeted each other by name. Life moved at a gentler pace. Ethan checked his phone. 3 missed calls from his assistant. 5 new emails marked urgent. He ignored them all. Around 9 o'clock, the bell above the shop door rang. Ethan looked up. His heart immediately skipped a beat. Emily walked inside holding Lily's hand. Noah and Mason followed close behind. The children laughed about something that had happened on the way. Emily smiled. A real smile. For a moment, Ethan simply watched. 5 years ago, he had dreamed about seeing her again. He imagined dramatic conversations, emotional confrontations. Nothing had prepared him for this ordinary moment. Emily noticed him seconds later. Her smile vanished. She froze near the entrance. Lily spotted him first. Mom, it is him. Ethan stood slowly. Several customers glanced toward them before returning to their coffee. Emily closed her eyes briefly, as if gathering strength. Then she guided the children toward a nearby table. Ethan hesitated before approaching. Can we talk? He asked. Emily looked at the kids. 5 minutes. Ethan nodded. The children settled into their seats. Noah pulled out a small book. Mason became fascinated by a toy airplane. Lily watched everything with endless curiosity. Emily stepped outside with Ethan onto the sidewalk. Cool morning air drifted through the street. For several moments, neither spoke. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. You have 3 beautiful children. Emily looked away. Thank you. How old are they? Her shoulders stiffened. 5. Ethan felt the answer land heavily inside him. 5 years. Exactly 5 years. He swallowed hard. Emily, I need the truth. She stared at the traffic passing down Main Street. The truth changes nothing. It changes everything. Her eyes met his. Pain flashed across her face. Not anger. Not resentment. Pain. Deep and familiar. You think finding me will fix the past? She asked quietly. Ethan shook his head. No, but I deserve to understand it. Emily laughed softly, though there was no humor in it. For 5 years, I told myself this day would never come. Before Ethan could respond, the coffee shop door opened. Lily rushed outside carrying a crayon drawing. Mom, look what I made. Emily immediately smiled and knelt beside her daughter. Ethan glanced at the paper. The drawing showed a small house, a mother, 3 children. Then his attention locked onto one more figure standing beside them. A tall man. Lily pointed proudly. That is our family. Ethan's chest tightened. Who is that? Lily answered without hesitation. I do not know. I just always felt somebody was missing. The drawing stayed in Ethan's mind long after he left the coffee shop. A mother, 3 children, one empty place that a little girl believed should belong to someone. By the time he returned to his hotel that evening, he could think of nothing else. He sat beside the window overlooking the quiet town and opened his laptop. For years, he had accepted that Emily was gone. Now she was here, living a life he knew nothing about. More importantly, there were 3 children whose ages matched a timeline he could not ignore. Ethan leaned back and closed his eyes. Every memory came rushing back. The last conversation he had with Emily, the unanswered messages, the months he spent searching, the heartbreak that followed. Something had never made sense. Emily was not the type of person who disappeared without a reason. She never had been. The next morning, Ethan decided to stop guessing. If answers existed, he would find them. He began with simple observations. Over the following 3 days, he remained in town under the excuse of extending his business trip. Each morning, he visited the same coffee shop. Each afternoon, he walked through the town square. He never approached the children directly. He simply watched from a respectful distance. What he saw only deepened the mystery. Emily worked at a local bookstore near the center of town. Customers seemed to adore her. The children often waited there after school. Noah usually sat quietly with a book far beyond his age level. Mason asked endless questions about everything around him. Lily talked to nearly every person she met. Their personalities were different, yet certain details connected them. Ethan noticed how Noah tilted his head when concentrating. He did the same thing. Mason often crossed his arms while thinking. Another familiar habit. Lily smiled exactly the way he had smiled in childhood photographs. Coincidences no longer felt possible. One afternoon, Ethan entered the bookstore for the first time. A small bell chimed above the door. Shelves filled with novels lined the walls. Warm sunlight spilled through the front windows. Emily stood behind the counter organizing a stack of books. Her expression changed the instant she saw him. You are still here. Ethan nodded. Looks that way. She sighed softly. You should not be doing this. Doing what? Looking for answers you might not want. Ethan stepped closer. That sounds like you already know the answers. Emily remained silent. Before either could continue, Noah appeared from a reading corner carrying a thick history book. He stopped when he noticed Ethan. The boy studied him carefully. You are the businessman from the fair. Ethan smiled. I guess I am. Noah looked thoughtful. Mom seems nervous whenever you are around. Emily immediately spoke. Noah. The boy shrugged. I am just being honest. Ethan could not help smiling. The child's directness felt strangely familiar. Noah examined him for another moment. Then he asked a question that nearly stopped Ethan's heart. Have we met before? The bookstore suddenly felt very quiet. Emily froze behind the counter. Ethan looked into the boy's blue eyes and felt an unexpected ache inside his chest. Slowly, he answered, No, I do not think we have. Noah nodded, though he did not look convinced. That is weird, he said, because you feel familiar somehow. That night, Ethan barely slept. Noah's question echoed through his thoughts. You feel familiar somehow. Children often notice things adults ignored. They sensed emotions, connections, truths hidden beneath the surface. By sunrise, Ethan knew he could not continue relying on assumptions. He needed facts, real answers. The following morning, he contacted a private investigator he had worked with years earlier. Not to invade Emily's life, not to cause trouble. He only wanted to understand what had happened after she disappeared. 2 days later, the first report arrived. Ethan sat alone in his hotel room as he opened the file. His pulse quickened with every page. Emily had moved to the town shortly after leaving New York. She rented a small apartment at first. A year later, she purchased a modest house with a large backyard. She worked multiple jobs during the children's early years. Waitress, receptionist, bookstore clerk, whatever helped support her family. Ethan stared at the documents. There was no record of a husband, no marriage license, no long-term partner. The children carried Emily's last name, Carter, nothing else. He continued reading. Then he reached a page that made his heart stop. The investigator had obtained public birth records. 3 names appeared side by side. Noah Carter, Mason Carter. Lily Carter. Same birth date. Same hospital. Same mother. The section listing the father was blank. Ethan slowly lowered the papers. His chest felt tight. 5 years ago, Emily vanished while carrying a secret she had never shared. A secret that now had faces, voices, personalities. 3 children growing up without knowing the full story. Yet one question remained. Why? Why would Emily leave without telling him? Why raise them alone when she had never been afraid to ask for help? None of it matched the woman he once knew. Late that afternoon, Ethan walked through town trying to clear his mind. The streets felt quieter than usual. Summer sunlight reflected off storefront windows. As he passed a small community park, he heard familiar laughter. Lily raced across the grass chasing bubbles. Mason attempted to catch them. Noah sat beneath a tree reading a book while pretending not to watch his siblings. Ethan stopped at the edge of the park. A smile appeared before he realized it. The children looked happy. Truly happy. Nearby, Emily sat on a wooden bench. She noticed him almost immediately. This time, she did not leave. She simply watched him approach. Ethan sat on the opposite end of the bench. Neither spoke for several moments. The sound of children playing filled the air. Finally, Emily broke the silence. You hired someone to investigate me. Ethan looked surprised. How did you know? A faint smile touched her lips. You always hated unanswered questions. He could not deny it. Emily stared toward the children. Did you find what you were looking for? Ethan followed her gaze. Noah laughed quietly at something Mason said. Lily twirled beneath the afternoon sun. His voice became softer than he intended. No, I found more questions. Emily closed her eyes briefly. A look of sadness crossed her face. Then maybe it is time you hear the truth. Ethan turned toward her. For 5 years, he had waited for this moment. Yet the fear in Emily's eyes told him the truth might be far more painful than anything he had imagined. The children continued playing across the park while Emily sat quietly beside Ethan. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The weight of 5 lost years seemed to settle between them. A gentle breeze moved through the trees. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked. Ordinary sounds filled the silence, yet nothing felt ordinary anymore. Emily folded her hands together and stared at the grass beneath her feet. The day I left New York, she said softly, I was already pregnant. Ethan felt his heart pound against his chest. Hearing the words out loud changed everything. Even though he had suspected it, the truth carried a different weight. Emily took a slow breath. I found out only a few days after our last argument. Ethan remembered that argument. It had been painful, confusing, full of things neither of them truly meant. At the time, he believed they would work through it. Instead, she vanished. Why did you not tell me? He asked. Emily looked away. Her eyes glistened with emotion. Because I believed you no longer wanted me in your life. Ethan stared at her in disbelief. Emily, that is not true. She gave a sad smile. 5 years ago, I thought it was. Ethan struggled to understand. Nothing about this matched his memories. He had searched for her. He had called. He had sent messages that were never answered. Emily slowly continued. A week after our argument, someone came to see me. Ethan frowned. Who? Emily hesitated. Her expression darkened. A woman from your family's circle. Ethan immediately felt uneasy. What did she want? Emily lowered her gaze. She told me your future was already planned. She said your family expected you to marry someone else. Someone who would strengthen your business connections. Ethan could hardly believe what he was hearing. That never happened. I know that now, Emily whispered. I did not know it then. She swallowed hard before continuing. She said I was standing in the way of everything you had worked for. Then she showed me documents. Ethan's jaw tightened. What documents? Financial agreements. Family plans. Things that made it look real. Emily closed her eyes briefly. She convinced me that staying would only hurt you. Ethan sat frozen. The pieces were beginning to form a picture he had never imagined. Emily had not left because she stopped loving him. She had left because someone manipulated her into believing she was protecting him. Across the park, Lily laughed as she chased a bright yellow butterfly. Noah watched from beneath the tree. Mason attempted to help, though he moved too slowly to catch up. Ethan looked at them. His children. 5 years of birthdays. 5 years of first words. 5 years of memories he had never shared. The realization hurt more than he expected. Emily noticed the sadness in his eyes. I never wanted to keep them from you. Her voice trembled. At first, I planned to tell you after everything settled down. Then the months passed. The children were born. Life became complicated. Ethan listened carefully, and every year it became harder. Emily nodded. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Eventually, I convinced myself it was too late. Ethan looked back toward the children. For the first time, he understood something important. Emily had not been protecting a secret. She had been carrying a mistake she regretted every day. Then Noah suddenly looked toward them from across the park. Their eyes met. The boy smiled. Ethan smiled back. In that quiet moment, a powerful thought entered his mind. The past could not be changed, but perhaps the future had not been written yet. After their conversation in the park, Ethan returned to his hotel carrying emotions he could barely process. Relief mixed with heartbreak. Emily had never stopped loving him. Yet someone had convinced her to walk away. For 5 years, both of them had lived with the consequences of a lie. That night, Ethan opened an old storage folder on his laptop. Thousands of archived emails, messages, and personal records filled the screen. He spent hours searching through the past. There had to be something he missed. Some clue hidden in plain sight. Near midnight, he found it. A calendar entry from more than 5 years ago. A private charity gala hosted by his family. Suddenly, a memory surfaced. During that period, one person had been unusually interested in his relationship with Emily. His father's longtime business associate, Victoria Langford. Ethan stared at the name. Victoria moved in the same social circles Emily had described. She possessed the influence, connections, and confidence necessary to make false claims sound believable. More importantly, Victoria had openly supported a merger between Ethan's company and another powerful family. A marriage alliance would have benefited everyone involved except Ethan and Emily. The realization sent a chill through him. The next morning, he made several phone calls. By afternoon, pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. An old assistant confirmed that Victoria had requested private meetings around the time Emily disappeared. Another contact remembered, overhearing conversations about protecting business interests. None of it proved anything directly. Yet the pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. Later that day, Ethan visited the bookstore again. Emily was arranging new arrivals on a shelf when he entered. She immediately recognized the determination in his expression. "You found something." Ethan nodded. "I think I know who spoke to you." Emily's face grew pale. "Victoria Langford?" Ethan was stunned. "You remember her name?" Emily looked down. "I tried to forget it for years." They moved to a quiet corner away from customers. Emily slowly explained details she had never shared before. Victoria had approached her with confidence and apparent authority. She claimed she was helping Ethan avoid a painful situation. Every document seemed authentic. Every explanation sounded reasonable. Looking back, Emily could see the manipulation. At 24 years old, heartbroken and frightened, she had believed every word. Ethan listened carefully. The anger he felt was not directed at Emily. It was directed at the deception that stole years from both of them. Before either could continue, the bookstore door opened. Lily rushed inside carrying a school project. Noah and Mason followed close behind. Their faces lit up when they saw Ethan. The reaction caught everyone by surprise. "You came back," Lily said happily. Ethan smiled. "Looks like I did." Mason held up a model airplane he had built at school. "Want to see something cool?" For the next several minutes, the children eagerly showed him their projects. Noah explained a history presentation. Mason described every detail of his airplane. Lily shared a drawing covered with bright colors. Ethan listened to every word. He found himself laughing more than he had in years. Emily watched quietly from across the room. There was sadness in her eyes, but something else had appeared as well. Hope. Then Noah asked a simple question that filled the bookstore with silence. "Mom, can Mr. Ethan come to our school fair next week?" 3 pairs of hopeful eyes turned toward her. Emily looked at Ethan. Ethan looked back at her. Neither knew how to answer, yet both understood one thing. The distance separating their lives was beginning to disappear. The question lingered long after the children left the bookstore that afternoon. Can Mr. Ethan come to our school fair next week? It seemed simple, innocent. Yet for Emily, it carried the weight of every decision she had made during the past 5 years. That evening, after the children were asleep, she sat alone at her kitchen table. The house was quiet except for the soft ticking of a clock on the wall. A folder rested in front of her. Inside were documents she had not looked at in years. Old papers, hospital records, letters she never mailed. memories she could never completely leave behind. Slowly, she opened the folder. One photograph slipped free and landed on the table. It showed Ethan from years ago, smiling, hopeful, looking toward a future neither of them had been allowed to share. Emily closed her eyes. The guilt had never truly disappeared. Every birthday, every holiday, every milestone, she had wondered what life might have looked like if she had stayed. Across town, Ethan sat in his hotel room staring at a different photograph. It had been taken during a company event nearly 6 years earlier. Victoria Langford stood beside several influential business leaders. Looking at the image now, he noticed details he had ignored before. The carefully planned introductions, the constant discussions about strategic alliances, the subtle pressure to build relationships that benefited everyone except himself. For the first time, he fully understood how deeply others had interfered in his personal life. Yet anger was no longer his strongest emotion. Regret was. Regret for the years he lost with Emily. Regret for every school event he missed. Every bedtime story. Every first step. The next morning, Ethan made a decision. He visited the bookstore before it opened. Emily was unlocking the front door when she saw him standing outside. She looked surprised. "You are here early." Ethan nodded. "I needed to talk to you." Emily invited him inside. Sunlight streamed through the front windows as they stood among shelves of books. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan finally broke the silence. "I am not leaving." Emily looked at him carefully. "What do you mean?" "I mean I am done running from the past. I am done letting other people decide what happens next." Emily lowered her gaze. "It is not that simple." "Maybe not." His voice remained calm. "But those children deserve honesty." The words hung in the air between them. Emily knew he was right. She had known for a long time. Fear was the only thing holding her back. Fear that the truth would confuse the children. Fear that old wounds would reopen. Fear that hope might lead to disappointment. Before she could respond, her phone rang. Emily glanced at the screen. The color immediately drained from her face. Ethan noticed the sudden change. "What is wrong?" Emily hesitated before answering. "Nothing." But it was clearly something. She quickly ended the call without picking up. A second later, a message appeared. Ethan could see the tension building in her expression. "Emily." She looked at him with troubled eyes. "Someone from New York found out where we are." Ethan felt a chill. "Who?" Emily swallowed hard. The answer came barely above a whisper. "Victoria." For the first time in years, the past was no longer a memory. It was coming straight toward them. Emily expected fear to return when Victoria's name appeared again. Instead, something surprising happened. She felt tired. Tired of hiding. Tired of carrying old mistakes. Tired of allowing one conversation from years ago to control the future. Ethan saw the change in her eyes almost immediately. The fear was still there, but it no longer ruled her. 3 days later, the town school fair arrived. Families filled the playground. Children ran between booths decorated with colorful banners. Music drifted through the warm afternoon air. Noah proudly presented his history project. Mason demonstrated his newest model airplane. Lily moved from game to game with endless excitement. Ethan attended exactly as promised. At first, he remained respectfully in the background. Then something unexpected happened. The children pulled him closer little by little. Noah wanted help setting up a display. Mason asked him to judge a paper airplane contest. Lily insisted he join a family photo at a decorated booth near the entrance. By late afternoon, Ethan no longer felt like a visitor. He felt connected. Emily watched from a distance. Every smile from the children softened something inside her. For years, she had feared this moment. Now she wondered why she had waited so long. As the sun began to lower across the playground, the principal announced a community raffle. Families gathered near the center field. During the excitement, Lily suddenly slipped her small hand into Ethan's. The simple gesture caught him completely off guard. She looked up at him with complete trust. "I am glad you came," she said. Ethan felt emotion rise in his chest. "I am glad too." A few feet away, Noah observed the exchange quietly. Then he walked over. Mason followed. The 3 children stood together in front of Ethan. For a moment, none of them spoke. Finally, Noah asked the question everyone had been avoiding. "Mom, is there something you have not told us?" The world seemed to stop. Emily looked at Ethan. Ethan looked back at her. No more hiding. No more waiting. Emily slowly knelt so she could meet the children's eyes. Her voice trembled with emotion. "There is something you deserve to know." The children listened carefully. Ethan remained beside them. Emily took a deep breath. Then she told them the truth. She explained how she and Ethan had loved each other, how misunderstandings separated them, how mistakes led to years apart. Most importantly, she told them who he really was. Silence followed, long emotional. Then Lily smiled first. It was the easiest reaction imaginable. I knew it. Mason blinked in surprise. Seriously? Noah stared at Ethan for several seconds before speaking. That explains a lot. Ethan laughed through the emotion building inside him. The children moved closer. No dramatic speeches followed. No perfect movie moment. Just a family standing together beneath the fading sunlight. Real. Imperfect. Honest. Later that evening, after the fair ended, they walked home together. Along the way, Noah discussed books with Ethan. Mason asked endless questions about airplanes and business. Lily held both adults by the hand. For the first time in 5 years, nobody was running away. Weeks later, Ethan arranged his schedule so he could spend significant time in town. Emily no longer faced the future alone. The children no longer wondered about the missing figure in their family drawings. Some lost years could never be recovered. Everyone understood that. Yet something more valuable had been found. A second chance. As they gathered for a photograph in the backyard one quiet summer evening, Lily grinned at the camera and pointed at the picture hanging beside the door. It was the drawing she had made months earlier. The house was the same. The family was the same. One detail had changed. The empty space was empty no longer.